has been lost to the enemy.
Battlefield 5 is upon us, and right now I imagine the people at DICE are feeling like the soldiers in the transport boats in the D-Day landings, except instead of opening doors to face deadly gun emplacements, they are facing a fan base that was confused by the bizarre announcement trailer, or still wounded by the loot box horrors of Star Wars Battlefront 2. There's apathy and anger, which is hardly fuel for success. It's a shame, as I love Battlefield. I've always liked games that reward team play over lone wolf excellence, partly because I'm terrible at first-person shooters, and because I love the sight of a well-oiled squad storming to victory. In a current gaming scene dominated by Battle Royale, a genre built on an aggressive, selfish drive to be the last person standing, I've been waiting for a game that celebrates playing a part in something bigger. Is Battlefield 5 that game? Well, I've played for a few days at a pre-launch event, so I thought I'd offer thoughts of what does and doesn't work. It's not a review, I want to see how the game functions out in the wild before making a proper call, but hopefully it will shed some light on what changes to the formula impress and what doesn't. You might be tempted watching this video to write something cruel about my aiming down in the comments. But how about taking that negative energy and funneling it into something positive, like clicking the like button or subscribing to Rock Paper Shotgun? That warning out the way, let's deploy! The game launches with 8 maps, which sounds a little stingy for £50, but comes across a little better in action. I've always found that the best Battlefield maps can feel like different places based on your given objective or vehicle choice. The French countryside of Twisted Steel, for example, has the boggy marshes where infantry and tanks play cat and mouse amongst the trees and tall reeds. But up above them, the bridge provides a grim tug of war with 2 desperate infantry swarms attempting to claim ground by hammering up sandbag walls to create new choke points. On a much smaller scale is Devastation, set in the bombed-out remains of Rotterdam Cathedral, the kind of tight warren of entrances and exits that doesn't immediately scream Battlefield scale, but allows for bloody scrabbles for the capture point plonked right in the nave. It's one of the few maps where building tools feel really powerful, as they can change the flow and lock it down in a way that they rarely do in the more sprawling maps. I know that trying to get a bomb through this sandbagged entrance was one of the few times in 2 days of playing that I really noticed fortifications playing a bigger role. Capture points are exchanging hands so quickly in games of conquest that it's actually quite easy to forget you've got a magic hammer capable of banging grains of sand into rock-solid bags. On the flip side, there was also this bit in Rotterdam, where the enemy blocked the entrance and I could still claim their flag. DICE might want to fix that. Arras is another winner, with these beautiful yellow fields offering a playground for vehicles, while infantry duke it out in the barns and farmhouses of the village. I mainly like it because the colour means it isn't just the overplayed Band of Brothers grey and gritty vision of war, but I also like domestic areas that crumble into total chaos as the match runs on. At the other end of the spectrum is Fiel, which is a series of tight cliff corridors atop a mountain, and a slightly baffling inclusion. It's a very linear map, more like the deathmatch arenas of Battlefront 2, than the sprawling natural locations we expect from DICE. I half expected to find a snow trooper lurking around the next corner, but it's never anything as exciting as that, boiling down instead to just running short laps of a very dull space. It's not great for 1/8 of the entire game. With only 8 maps at launch, I'd hoped for a couple more solid gold dazzlers, another Arras or Twisted Steel. I'm willing to accept that your mileage might vary based on how you like to play though. One thing I am sure of is that the new airborne mode is my least favourite Battlefield mode yet. Okay, maybe not as bad as Battlefield 1's Pigeon one. In this mode, you start inside a giant metal pigeon, or a plane as it's commonly called, ready to parachute in and attempt to blow away anti-aircraft guns. The drama of the moment is indisputable, especially when you jump in the rain and see millions of water droplets whooshing by. My problem is that it's very easy for the defending team to chew through the attackers as they land. It's quite hard to hide a huge parachute after all, and that forces you to endlessly respawn in the plane. Maybe I should blame myself for dying, or my squad for not staying alive, but every time we played Airborne we were just endlessly stuck in this damn aeroplane. It's about as exciting as listening to aircraft safety presentations. Of course, when you do finally break through and plant the damn bomb, it's exhilarating. Just don't get overexcited and blow your own ass off. Annoyingly, Airborne is part of my favourite mode in the game, Grand Operations. This builds on Battlefield 1's Operations mode by stitching multiple matches into a mini-campaign. Based on how you perform on one day, you are then at an advantage or disadvantage in the next match. Take this Dutch operation. If the attackers successfully take enough capture points in the first round of Airborne, then you might be given faster vehicle respawns in the second match of Frontline set in Devastation. If you are a fan of the original Operations mode, it sort of appears here in shape of Breakthrough, the game type that asks you to hold multiple capture points at once. It's brilliantly high pressure stuff, with some of the best last second comebacks in everything we played, so I'm glad it makes a return here. I'm undecided on Final Stand, which triggers in the event of a close finish on the third day of Grand Operations. It feels like a rough pencil sketch of Battle Royale. There's one life each, limited ammo, and an ever-decreasing area. Problem is, support and medics can stock everyone up, and leaving the shrinking area gives you ages to return. It's flat and undramatic, although I do like the bit where 32 soldiers charge as a gang. I'm intrigued to see what lessons will be learned for Firestorm, which is Battle Royale proper, when it comes out in March.
Ja, erste Hilfe für dich!
Bad squad play has been the curse of many a battlefield. You know, when you get grouped with jerks driven by kill-death ratio and no interest in objectives or support. Battlefield 5 does a lot to make squad play more enjoyable and rewarding. For starters, you spawn with less ammo, making it important to buddy up with a supply class. Fail to do this, and you might end up relying on a pistol that looks like it came out of a Christmas cracker. This seemed funnier on the loadout screen. Likewise, health doesn't regen to max, so you're reliant on friendly medics, which is my class of choice, or having to build supply stations dotted around the map. Personally, I adore medic work. Wedging yourself into chaos and peppering people with pick-me-ups is valuable, satisfying work. Well, apart from the odd ironic moment. Crucially, working with your squad earns points to buy extra toys during the fight. Keep each other healthy or stocked with ammo and you'll start saving up currency to buy supply drops, if you're boring and sensible, or a Sturm Tiger, if you like making houses explode. These purchases are all in the hands of the squad leader, so don't work with a scumbag who'll nick the best stuff. Of course, everyone knows that the best squads save up for V1 rockets. On paper, these reinforcements may sound like Call of Duty kill streaks, but it really does take consistent team play and doesn't overpower the game. Other changes are smaller but meaningful. The fact that you see your squad in third person during respawn gives you a better sense of their situation and emphasises the importance of squad deployment. Some might prefer to jump straight to the traditional deploy map overview, but I like that DICE have really gone all in on squad play. Of course, so much of this hinges on having friends to play with, but it really did bring the game to life for me. I'm just hoping that reinforcements are enough to encourage people to give it a proper try with strangers.
V1 rocket is 41k if I'm...
Within this cooperation mix, there's still a big focus on personal progression, something that was massively undercooked in Battlefield 1. Here you level up every discipline based on how much you use it. At the end of a match, there's separate gauges for your progress as an all-round soldier, as a medic, and your specific weapon of choice. The more you do a specific thing, the faster you develop at that specific thing. It reminds me of Forza Horizon 4's do the races that you want to see more of approach, and I like games that go out of their way to accommodate me. One look at the progression chart for the classes, unlocking guns and gadgets at every step, shows how much it's improved over Battlefield 1's laughably bare-bones progression. Improving in a class unlocks new weapons, but levelling up a weapon lets you tweak its specialisation, picking performance perks. Do you want your Sten to have better hip-fire accuracy or less recoil? There's not enough options to make it a highly tuned custom build, but I do like that it's not a big time investment. I fully upgraded the Sten in about 4 hours, just enough time to get familiar before moving on to something new. Everything has a physical layer to it too, with weapon skins and costume parts unlocked at level milestones that you can see in this Sten progression chart. Other skins cost company coins that you grind for in-game or are purchased with real-world money. It does avoid the pitfalls of Battlefront 2 by being purely cosmetic. Well, unless cosplaying as Big Boss somehow bestows you with his legendary soldier abilities, which I don't think it does. All this comes together in your customizable company. Here you choose the look and perks of everything you can spawn as. That's the 4 different classes and different vehicles on both the British and German sides. As much as I like the granular control, it is currently a big fiddly mess of menus and submenus. Having to click equip on each item is incredibly clumsy, but still I persevered and dressed my squad so there was a bit of colour coordination going on. One bonus complaint, there is an outfit called the Writer, which is trendy, but if she was a real writer it would have way more mayonnaise stains on it. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about here.
What led it back to us?
One thing customization does highlight is the weird tone of the game. From the outset, it's all very respectful. You get Mark Strong delivering a very serious speech about the horrors of war, and you can almost hear the frown on his head. Then you're into a prologue that whips you around a series of deaths across the globe. It's like the opening to Battlefield 1, but with slightly less mud. Play the single-player war stories and you find similar tales of sacrifice and unhappy endings, even in the one where you ski around a mountain like James Bond. Over in multiplayer, the grand operations are couched in the language of epic struggle, really trying to deliver the idea that these were grueling campaigns that churned through young soldiers for often tiny gains. But once you've broken through that layer, you're suddenly playing dress-up, decking people out in blinged out gas masks and bizarre Nazi chic. I mean, the German clothes are all swastika free, but it's quite weird to see sinister uniforms repurposed as a must-have fashion accessory. Is it possible to have Mark Strong telling us that war is bad in the same game where you can build yourself a solid gold Tommy gun? I mean, look at the state of this thing. Every time I was shot down, I'd lie there bleeding out, looking at this ridiculous gun and just wondering where my life went wrong. And if it's not my gun, I'm watching a teammate with an equally gaudy weapon going mad in the lobby, or a gang of Nazis limbering up for war with squads. I mean, you didn't see that in Saving Private Ryan. I've got no problems with the game being big, dumb fun with golden guns, silly costumes, and microscopic pea shooters. It just doesn't sit easily with the more serious elements. It almost feels like it was going to be a very different project at one point. The game of the announcement trailer, a vision of mad steampunk fantasy war. But the backlash to that has left them trying to tone it down. Incidentally, I couldn't find any of the prosthetic limbs shown in the trailer in the final game. It's been a muddled time for Battlefield, and you can really feel it in its bones.
I'll see to you!
When I say the game doesn't feel finished, I don't mean in a rushed buggy way. Sure, the odd body defies gravity, and ankles bend in impossible ways to accommodate prone players. I also found a magical wall that grew an infinite supply of leaves, but that was quite zen during an otherwise fraught battle, so it wasn't exactly a problem. On the whole, I was really impressed with how smooth and gorgeous Battlefield 5 is. We played in controlled conditions, of course, but it was slick. When Rock Paper Shotgun The Site does a tech breakdown, I'll be sure to post it in the video description. No, what I mean by unfinished is the general lack of stuff to do, and some big holes left to be filled in the coming months. DICE are calling their free DLC schedule the Tide of War, which is a rather overblown name for a series of regular themed content updates. But the stuff coming should arguably be here at launch. The training grounds, the new co-op mode, the battle royale, one of the single-player war story campaigns. I mean, as much as they want to dress it up as themed care packages, it feels like stuff that just wasn't finished on time. All these future updates are free, which should avoid splitting the player base around the traditional premium pass, but the idea of buying into the promise of a game sits uneasily with me. Strip away the talk of new modes, and the updates really only promise 2 new maps between now and March, which sounds really skimpy when you consider it only has 8 currently. Worse, we played one of them, a tank-based number called Firestorm, and it was just a massive field for you to churn up. I really wasn't that impressed. Perhaps you see the launch as a first step towards something, an exciting something, and something you get for free, but for £50, I really expect something more tangible. I guess that's the wider point here. What you get at launch in Battlefield 5 is generally polished and generally great fun, especially if you prefer a more tactical game that encourages people to play their roles and help the team shine as a whole, which I do. And there's a scale to the action that you just don't get in any other modern shooter. Battle Royale games may crush 100 people onto a map, but they never give you the drama and thrill of what DICE achieve with 64. Of course, any game can hold up after 2 days of play. The test here is whether we're still playing in a week, a month, a year, and what the game itself looks like then. Will it have blossomed into DICE's best work yet, or will Tides of War be a war of attrition? I'm excited to find out, but it does make it hard to offer a full-blooded recommendation at launch. Those are my early impressions of Battlefield 5. Congrats to those of you who endured my horrible aiming and made it this far in the video. If you enjoyed it, please do let us know in the comments. Even better, why not subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun? We try to cover all the big PC releases, as well as celebrate some of the weirder stuff you won't see elsewhere. You know, like the Magic Leaf Wall. I hope you'll join us again soon. Bye for now.